Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant.
My name is Viltaré Platzner, and I'm the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. First, if you are in Brussels Friday the 20th of June, you are invited to drop by Place du Luxembourg for the Grand Brussels meetup. I'll be there from around 4 o'clock. Come for a drink and a chat with me and other The Grant listeners. Go to thegrant.eu for more information. This episode is part of my Widening Series. Thomas Brent and I recorded a podcast episode some time ago about the FP10 discussions. Behind the curtain, we discussed the widening program and the new FP10 position papers where some countries were suggesting to slash it from the framework program and move the funding to the cohesion program. We both thought that was a bad idea and agreed to put our heads together and do a series zooming in on the widening program with Thomas as co-host. Here, in this second episode of the series, we have two coordinators of widening projects in the virtual podcast studio. Viltaré Platzner, research manager at Slovak University of Technology, and Katalin Oborni, senior project manager at HETFA in Budapest. We have invited them in for a talk about the structure and the specificities of the widening projects, and of course also a talk about if and how the projects help to break down barriers between widening and non-widening countries in all practicalities through the project activities. Great insights. Please enjoy.
The Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. Today I'm juggling with three guests. Well, that's not true. I have a co-host and I have two guests in the virtual podcast studio today because this is the second episode of the Widening series that Thomas Brent and myself we have initiated some time ago. Episodes in this series takes a little longer to plan and to get rolling, but this one has been planned for a very long time. But that's how it is. That's how it is with some episodes like this. Now. And before anything else, Thomas, first of all, you're my co-host and you're a man, so you'll have to wait until the end. Ladies first. Katalin, can you shortly introduce yourself?
Okay, hello to everyone. I'm happy to be here, so thank you for the invitation. So my name is Katalin Oborni. I'm a sociologist with a background in gender studies, and I coordinate a Widening Horizon project. That's why I'm here. And I work at the HETFA Research Institute, which is a think tank located in Budapest, in Hungary. And this is what I do. I coordinate EU-funded projects such as Horizon, Erasmus, or SERV project. And I also have the role of being the gender equality advisor to any project where it's needed. And so I said a coordinated project, but I also participate as a researcher in the project. So if there is a research activity in a project which is connected to any kind of field in regards of the state of art of women.
So first thing first. So my name is
Viltaré.
You read it as you read it as it's written. It's very easy. No worries, you're not the first to make mistake. Yes, I'm Viltaré Platzner. I work in Slovak University of Technology in Bratislava in Slovakia. So we are actually neighbors. That's very nice to have my co-guest from Hungary. I'm the head of the Center of EU Projects, a directorate at the university. So at my center, we do everything. We do pre-award, post-award, consultations, budget drafting. So I'm covering not only widening projects, but also cluster projects and trainings, other activities. Whatever you say, we probably do it.
Thomas, my co-host, shortly about yourself.
Last but not least. So thanks for having me back on, Neil. So I am a former journalist, current communications officer. So I was a journalist at Science Business, working in Brussels, reporting on research and innovation policy. for quite a while, and there I edited the newsletter dedicated to the widening measures. I'm now at CERN working as a communications officer on EU projects, so various EU projects. That's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. And you can take it into the bridge here, because we'll just have a short section here before we start having an introduction to the projects that the dear ladies here they are working with and for, and before we go into the discussion also. So Thomas, widening, why are we doing this?
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to give a bit of a brief history of the widening, just to give some context to what it is. And please, Viltaré, Katalin, if you want to add anything, say it. Okay, overview. So the widening started just over 10 years ago with the previous framework program, Horizon 2020. So it started in 2014. At the time, with I think 16 countries were classified as widening, because I think Luxembourg was involved. But basically, the widening measures are aimed at countries that are generally considered low performing when it comes to participation in the framework program. And it's typically countries that joined the EU after 2004. So a lot of them are from Central and Eastern Europe. There's also Portugal, Greece, there's the Baltic countries, Malta, Cyprus, etc. The idea is to get these countries, to give them more opportunity to participate in the framework program, to build bridges between them and leading institutions in, let's say, Western European countries, and generally to boost the research innovation performance of these countries. So there's been various different instruments over the years aimed at doing this. Some of the biggest and most popular ones are ones like teaming, twinning, era chairs. All of them, in one way or another, are about linking top performing institutions with lower performing institutions to try to build these bridges, to try to learn lessons from each other, essentially. So the widening has been going for over 10 years now. There is some debate still as to whether or how effective it is. There's still some debate on whether it should be continued or not, or in what form it should be continued. These are ongoing debates that are still happening right now, and also as we look ahead to the creation of the next framework program. Some critics think that we should not have country-specific measures. Some countries think that by having a widening program, you actually ring-fence certain countries into a smaller part of the framework program, and so therefore they are not able to participate in the main part. And other people are in favor of the widening measures and think that they're working. There has been most recently some interim evaluations of widening measures, some reviews, and it seems to show that in general, the widening measures are working, but they're working pretty well for some countries and not especially well for other countries. So now we have a bit of a two-speed program going. But that's a bit more of the politics behind it. And yeah, that's just a little bit about the history.
Yeah, without spending too much time on this, but it's just important to understand the frame of why this has been done. This, of course, if there's historical legacy in many of these countries that are in the widening category. That the majority of them are post-communist countries, and the academic system of the communist countries was quite specific. It was actually one of the things that communism pushed a lot of resources into because of the overall battle with the West, but it was not very efficient. So you have many people that were very strong researchers and having their own networks in Eastern Europe, but the connection to the market, naturally, because there wasn't such, and the important international networking connections that you need when you enter into a multinational setting like the EU, that framework. It's just shown, it's been a continuous discussion in the EU since the countries joined, that low participation in the framework programs and how to deal with that. And the widening program was the answer to that. And then you also included some of the others, Greece, Portugal, also former totalitarian countries. So this is the attempt to try to break down these, to try to facilitate regulation, trying to, with regulation, to open up these networks and break down these established networks and push them open, so there's more interconnection across the old barriers. So
if I can jump in, I think that maybe even more important is to build a bridge, but also for us to actually have an instrument to learn from those, let's call it non-widening, which I don't really like to call it widening, non-widening, but let's say
that's how it is. In this context, it's okay. Nobody will be offended.
The top universities, because this is also what we see from the project, that there are not so many instruments where we can actually focus just on learning. And by learning, I mean, exchanging best practices, and not only in the research, but a lot in the research management, which greatly helps the institutions, at least our institution.
Yeah. Let's I already have so many things that are, but let's I'm going to put a lid on the discussion, because first we want to hear, of course, about, so the purpose of this conversation is that you share about the concrete projects, and you are both handling a couple of projects. So Viltaré,
yes,
do you want
to
start?
So we selected 2 projects. Both of them are from twinning scheme that Thomas already presented shortly. I will not get into it too much. I will jump straightly to the project. So I will start with the one that ends actually in September, and we actually have results already. So the twinning number 1 is called FrontSeat, which stands for Fostering Opportunities Towards Slovak Excellence in Advanced Control for Smart Industries. We are doing this project together with University of Pisa and Ruhr University in Bochum from Germany. So those are our 2 top universities, let's say non-widening partners. And so the project runs for 3 years, as I said already, ending this September. The key challenge is, the twinning program is quite specific, and you don't have a lot of space to play around. It's quite like they say what you should do. So both of the projects are actually very similar, but they have different field of the research focus. So this one, as you can guess from the name, is focus on advancing the research in automatic control system with application in smart industries. So the challenge is basically to bridge the gap between the research excellence between our university and 2 universities we are working in. Then regarding the educational advancement, so we are strengthening PhD level education in our university, taking example and looking at how University of Pisa and Ruhr University in Bochum is doing it. And the third very important pillar, especially for me, is strengthening of RMAs in Stuba. And in this case, we are working mostly with University of Pisa and their project center. I will a little bit speak about that more later. So when we speak about results, so in research, we have over 10 PhD students who went to those 2 universities for longer stays to work together with the professors to write papers, to do experiments. Over 20 papers were already written, co-authoring actually early stage researchers, which is very important for us, because we know how, that we need to give the opportunity for early stage researchers. And also we established academia industry cluster, where we are trying to, bridge the gap also between academia and industry in Slovakia. Regarding education, we have a new PhD study program, which is already approved, that was tailored by the example from Unipi and RUP. I will use their short names. And we have, of course, series of international lectures. And when we speak about my field, RMAs, we have more than 200 hours of trainings in person and online. We have one hop-on project, which is another widening instrument that I will not speak too much today about. We have one hop-on with the University of Pisa approved, so we actually managed to use this project to get another project from Widening scheme, and now we are involved in their EAC Pathfinder project, which is really great because we are learning a lot. And we also submitted one Marie Curie project. And also we have a collaboration with in the startup support field. So our technology incubator is closely working now together with RUB World Factory, which is a startup support center of RU University in Bochum. So that's in a nutshell. There is a lot to say because the project is ending. So actually we have quite a nice result that I'm really happy about.
Lots to talk about.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned you have another project.
Yes.
Yeah. You also want to share about that?
We can switch to Katalin now, and then I can come back to that if that's okay. Yeah. People get not bored.
Katalin, hit us.
Yeah, sure. I will be much shorter because I want to introduce one project, a widening project we coordinate at the HETFA Research Institute. And this is a coordination and action project. So this is not, because so far it was, I feel a bit more highlighted that widening programs are for connecting researchers. So the research activity is not the main activity in the project. Also, we included. So the STREAMIT project is addressing the systematic, persistent gender-based inequalities in STEAM education. So we have two focal points in the project. One is the STEAM education. So we would like to promote Europe-wide the STEAM education. What is it? What is the A in the approach of STEAM? And the other focus is on how to incorporate, how to involve the gender perspective, the gender dimension into education, or the approaches into the classes, or what to do with the gender balance in a certain field of STEM education. In this project, so we are not only doing research, but we are creating communities, and I think online, offline communities, and we have the job to create a roadmap by the end of the project. So we are supposed to do so-called policy work within this project, and I think this is one main character of our widening project, that we are not I would say so not only a building or research network, but with this project, we put ourselves on the map of those institutions who are capable of coordinating Horizon project. Because as an institution, we are experienced in running and coordinating other projects, but this is the first Horizon project we coordinate. And this is the first one, and already a quite large consortium, because we have 20 partners, one affiliated partner from 19 countries. And we have, I would say, a heavy concentration in the Central Eastern European part in terms of the composition of the partner countries. So it's not only about connecting highly experienced institutions, universities from the western part of Europe, from the non-widening countries. It's also more about bringing those widening countries more into this whole world of EU-funded project activity.
Katalin, can I just jump in quickly? I suppose that this type of call is also, depending on when, but available within the wider Horizon Europe program, so not just in the widening section. So you could have applied somewhere else in Horizon Europe. Was technically?
Yeah, what was the reason why not?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, so we cannot deny that this is a good opportunity for us, that for this call only the widening countries can be the coordinators, but we really love the topic of the call. So that's why we applied for this, because we have the capacity for do research in this specific field, the gender equality in STEAM education. So it's not, so yeah, So thank you for the question. It's not only important that this is a widening opportunity and we have to take on, but the topic also itself is really relevant for us.
Actually, the main topic should be the driver, right? But then you just have these little hatches that you have to. That has to be an element where you connect. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So it's not only the opportunity; the topic has to be catchy as well.
Of course, it has to be a real problem, Then we wouldn't piss money away from taxpayers. No. Now, Viltaré, your second project shortly.
Yeah, so the second project is called FreeTwin EV, which stands for Fostering Research Excellence of STU in Digital Twinning for Sustainable and Safe Electric Vehicles. So the focus is the battery research, which is a very hot topic now. Mm-hmm. And we are partnering together with the LCM, which is a Linz Center of Mechatronics in Austria, University of Twente in Netherlands, and ACEN, which is a Slovak company for innovation management and consultancy company, basically, who helps us mostly with the RMA activities, but also helping us to do many activities, actually. So yeah, the challenges, I will not repeat myself, are very similar. So we are trying to work on the research. So the groups of researchers have small part in it. As Katalin said, the widening projects are, support actions. So we have only very small part of it is a research, but they are working together, exchanging students and actually doing actual battery research together. The same educational, we are strengthening the PhD field, and for us, for RMAs, we have many activities, as I mentioned, together with ACEN. They are training us. We are doing a roadmap how to improve actually our profession, our office, and the center. Yeah. So that's in a nutshell. It started just a year ago. We are actually on Monday. I'm traveling to Netherlands for the consortium meeting of 1 year. So the results are not so visible yet, but it's a very exciting project.
Thanks. Now we're going to talk a little bit about. Now we're going to the next, and this is the main section of this conversation. Now we want to pick your brains. You sharing with us how the widening perspective was present when you wrote the proposals, and what has happened during the project. Now, the first project you mentioned, Viltaré, that is, it's obvious, but we'll have to the other one Katalin went into, as we just talked about, that it's covering a topic, and then we need to unfold a little bit and dig a little bit into how these things were addressed, because it's part of you need to address it in the proposal, and you need to carry it out when you do the implementation. So first, if we start with the consortia.
Mm-hmm.
So were you part of the? So were you also coordinating the proposal process, both of you, when you wrote the proposal?
In my case, not the first one, but the second one. So the first one was written when I was still not working at the university. But that's a different topic. There's a lot of differences in that you can see immediately. You can feel, when you are doing the project. But regarding the consortia, that's a good question. Widening scheme obviously asks to have a widening partner as a main one. In twinning, specifically, you have to have at least 2 universities from abroad, from non-widening countries, sorry, which seems to be very easy task to do on paper.
Mm-hmm.
But I noticed that there are actually some universities and some researchers that are very keen to join these kind of projects, because and mostly nobody knows about this. Like from our
now they do. Now it's public. Share it.
From my experience, whenever I also speak with other RMAs at the conferences or whatever, and I say, like, do you know widening? And I would say 8 out of 10 say no, which is still already, like, it is quite surprising for me, because I thought it's everywhere. Like, we cannot spam more the widening scheme, but still people don't know. And so I, while while doing the consortium, while thinking about consortia, very often I have like half of the people are willing to join and to do this because it's not research, so they have to be some kind of teachers, some kind of mentors for actually quite a little budget, because that's also one of the things that the widening country has to have more than half of the budget. Mm-hmm. And you are one and the others are two, so they have to share like 25 and 25. So it is kind of less budget, but of course they're just mentoring, which is of course not just. So yeah, you have these two types, that some of them are willing, some of them say, it's not a research, I don't have time for it. So yeah.
Can I ask, when you're pitching to these leading institutions to try to get them on board, how do you sell it to them, I guess, to show that there is some sort of benefit or advantage for them? Because I guess the ideal situation is that this project is mutually beneficial.
Absolutely, it has to be. From the very beginning, it has to be, because as you say, we really need to sell it. Because to say that, okay, you will have to teach us and you will have very little money, they will say, well, sorry, no. Yeah. So my strategies, I would call it, is PhD students coming to you to do the hard work. You can use, because the exchanges are usually long ones, so for a month and a half, maybe longer. So for them it's good to have a extra PhD student for whom they don't have to pay. So that's one of the selling points that usually works. The second one is that in many of the widening schemes you have budget for going to conferences together, so writing the proposals and actually going to conferences. So that's another thing that they don't need to find their own budget for that. And of course the learning also, like vice versa learning, but that's hard to prove before you actually start to work together. But I can say that at the end of FrontSeat, that our partners from UNIP, I can speak only from RMA, I don't know how researchers, but I see they're happy, but I don't want to speak in their name. But from our side, the RMAs from UNIP stress that many times, that they learn from us as well, like how we do think, and so it's not one way, definitely.
Would you agree, Katalin?
On selling your project to the widening countries, well, I think you have to sell your ideas for any kind of project development. But I think if you ask what was the good selling point for a project, I think I'm thinking of the size of the partnership, because it provides or offer lots of other opportunities. So it's like we are constantly like in conversation of other project development as well. So the size of the consortium itself is a good point. And then although it's not a research focused project, from the beginning we clearly communicated that we want to do like a proper valid research activity though in the project, which we actually did. So we are in the phase of analyzing our data set, and then we consider it as research like in any other project. And so this is what we offered for the partners. And in this project we have to build quite large community for promoting the STEAM approaches. And I think this could be another selling point for all the other projects. And we have in this structure of the consortium, we have a partner who is only responsible, well, I say only responsible, but this is a huge responsibility, what they do. So they are responsible for the communication and promotion. So this is their job in the project. And so we are building a Europe-wide community within our project. I think this is something which is a real selling point for the others, because if they participate in these communities, they can like easily, naturally expand their networking as well.
Yeah, but if I can just comment on this very fast, this is the differences between our projects, because you have a project with huge partnership, and that's definitely a selling point. I totally agree. But you know, the twinnings, the teamings, they usually are very small consortia. This is 3 partners, you know.
Yeah, this is very different.
This is very different.
Yes, indeed, very different. Actually, we think that's why we were the winner, the number one who get this project, because we built a large consortium.
In our first recording, Thomas, Ian, he released the fact that actually it's the non-widening countries that are dragging home most budget from the widening program. So in his point of view, he was... well, I'm saying the word hypocrites. He didn't. But I would say that being hypocrites, they want to shut it down or push the money away, but they're actually the ones that get the most funding. Now, I want to ask the two of you, how's the balance widening, non-widening partners in your proposals or in your project? Sorry, is it a 50-50 or?
No, I have more widening countries involved as partners in the project, and I was very keen on putting them as work package leaders and task leaders, so giving them like good roles in the project.
Again, very specific cases for, I think, almost each of the schemes, because for twinning you need to have, you know, in one twinning we have 1 widening, 2 non-widening. In the other we have 2 and 2. But still, you know, the twinning, the aim of the twinning is basically just to not just, but to enhance the excellence in one institution usually. So that's very different. Yeah, but in this case, you have more non-widening countries usually. In teaming is the same, that you are building usually the excellence center in one institution, maybe 2, and then you have like expert partners. You want to have more of them, so you have more kind of help and more, you know, more experts. Yeah.
I think what happens is that, for example, just as an example, German institutes are very in demand as being widening partners. So they end up getting involved in a huge amount of widening projects. And like that, they scoop up quite a lot of the funding compared to, for example, one institute in Slovakia, where you may be involved in 3 projects. So I think like that, it ends up that Germany benefits hugely from the widening, even if on an individual project basis, you know, there's only 1 German institute and 2 Hungarian. But yeah, it kind of distorts the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, and of course, you need to remember that those German universities, they are participating on 20 cluster projects still, you know, and for us, for example, at the moment we have, in the coordination role, we have mostly widening projects, and so you cannot really compare it. Yeah.
Do you then, so having managed some widening projects, do you think now you're more likely or more confident with proposing or trying to get into the wider Horizon Europe? So you would be more comfortable coordinating a cluster call, for example?
100%. 100%. Not only, I mean, again, I can speak from my own experience. So, you know, the twinning, for example, is only 3 partners. It's a very close consortium. You can really get to know each other very well, and you start to know how to work with you know, 3 partners. So it's some kind of playground, I would call it. You know, you try out your hands in it. So personally, definitely yes. I hope really that researchers are also feeling the same, that now after they try to coordinate the widening project, they will be more confident on going to coordinate also cluster or Marie Curie or whatever.
Is there a risk that they're so comfortable with widening that they just leave that as, you know, they stay in the playground rather than joining the...
I don't think so, because the researcher still wants to do a lot of research. And the widening...
Yeah, that's universal.
Yeah. So the widening scheme doesn't allow them to do it as much. Of course, there is part of it, but they also have to do other activities, like soft activities, you know, which not every researcher is like super excited about. you know.
Now,
If I may answer this question, because I have a little bit different answer to this question. Because personally, I can admit that I improve a lot as a coordinator, as an RMA in this role of being an RMA. But speaking on behalf of the institution, I can say that before applying for a widening project, we were already capable for coordinating a large project. It was difficult for us to win the first Horizon project. So of course we are like improving our skills capacities on institutional level, and personally the project managers here improving. But I can like honestly say we were already like ready for coordinating the Horizon project. It was just difficult for us to win the very first one as a coordinator.
I understand.
So in this sense, I would like to say that and reflect back one of the first things what you said, Thomas, that there is a question if the widening program should be kept or not. I think it should be definitely kept, because I think we are a good example to show that this is a tool. This is like a mainstreaming tool for counteracting the structural inequalities between these countries, what you still referring the post-communist and the non-communist countries, so the widening and the non-widening countries. No. So I think we are the living example that this is a good scheme.
Yeah, that's also the opinion of your dear host here. The editorial opinion. No. Now I want to because that's probably going to take a little more time here. Structure of proposals. It seems very simple when you write like this, right? But actually here we're talking about the very essence of what So what I mean with this, to putting this here, to have a conversation about this, how did you, the proposal writing, how did you incorporate, how did you work with this element of widening, like inside the problem to be solved, so to say? But which elements did you use? Can you share with us how you did that? And you can, Katalin, maybe you can start.
Oh, I just wanted to say that maybe Viltaré can start, because I really don't have any specific about this, because what I can say is that the call was very direct, what they want to see, and this defined how we put together all the work packages. What I said before, that I was really like thinking of how to make opportunities for those organizations, institutes who are from these widening countries. And I think I had to like present the HETFA Research Institute as that we are a capable institute to coordinate such a large consortium. Maybe we had more emphasis on them. But in terms of the structure of the proposal, we had to follow the logic like in any other proposal, and follow the requirement of the call, of course.
It is sort of interesting because the topic that the project is based on is quite universal. So it's not necessarily specific to widening countries, the gender imbalance in STEM, for example. Mm-hmm. But did you have to put any emphasis on the fact that maybe there's a reason that this proposal should be coming as part of the widening and led by an institute in a widening country?
No, there was no any like reflection on it, and actually we didn't reflect any differences between the widening and non-widening countries in relation to the STEM education or the state of art of STEM or STEAM education. The emphasis was more really on that we should change from STEM to STEAM.
Could you explain quickly the difference?
Okay, very briefly, the STEM. Well, that's actually always a long conversation. So the difference between the two is in the STEAM there is this A letter which reflects on the art, but it's much more complex, because it's not simply the crafting activities within the education. It refers more, according to my understanding, it refers more to the liberal arts. So anything within an educational methodology which is connected to problem solving, creative thinking, dealing with the real world problem, that's all included. So there should be a more focus on this A letter within this STEAM methodology, because the thought behind is that it will involve more of those groups who are considered disadvantaged within the STEM education. It is not only the girls or the young women in professional STEM careers, but other like disadvantages. So intersecting of the disadvantages can be tackled in a more, let's say, practical, relevant way. If we think of art is an important part of education, because as you see, it brings a lot of new elements into education,
including podcasting.
Yeah. Communication skills is also like a huge part, or should be a huge part of education. Like communicating, like science communication, just to mention the obvious example.
But I'm going to squeeze you a little bit on this, because if you have applied for the widening, you must have written somewhere in the proposal something about measures related to the widening discourse. There must have been something in the description of the call, or in the where you would have to reflect or put something in there, say we will to break, to break down the barriers between. There must have been something.
Yeah. So I just said that we are the living example why this widening scheme is good, but in the sense what you are asking, we haven't specifically like mentioned that what we should differently or how we should connect widening, non-widening countries, because the call itself specifically required us that we create a Europe-wide community.
Okay.
So that was really like inherently
I understand.
Among the requirements of the call. So in this sense, we had an easy job, because anyway, we had to show a plan, which is about creating communities on Europe level and local levels as well, which we did, which we included. So this is one thing what we are doing, promoting the STEAM education through an online platform, and we are creating online communities in some of the countries involved in the consortium as well.
We're not going. I'm not going to. I'm just not going to squeeze you anymore.
No, but you can. That's why I said that I don't have specific answer.
Nah, but it's important to put anyways.
What kind of specific structure we applied for the proposal, because we didn't. We really like followed what was the requirement of the call, and we were really. But what helped us, and I think what you can consider as a specific widening, I don't know, like tool structure, is that we built a large consortium representing, I could say, representing almost all of the European countries, because it's 19 countries from the EU and plus from non-EU countries.
Viltaré, I have a bit of a specific question for you then. So
okay, should I start with my answer?
Yeah. Then I will follow up.
Maybe my answer will be an answer also to your question. Yeah. I must disagree with this. In our case, it was very very important to follow the story of widening and to really base it, but it is, again, because it's a very different schemes we are speaking about, it totally different. So when you are convincing a reviewer why he should give money to 3 specific universities, you really need to sell the story that, okay, we are the ones that will get the benefit from the widening point of view, and how this bridge will be made, and how we will be included, and how they will help us. So it was really, I would say, both of the proposals are built very much around it, in a sense that we see that it's important. We have that in Stuba, we have state-of-the-art, very strong one, but it's maybe not so visible because we are still considered, and maybe we are not so much trusted by the Western universities. This is another thing that I would like to touch, the trust issues and what widening, how it helps that.
Yeah.
And so this bridging and this kind of the discourse of that is definitely very important. And speaking of the technical terms, so of course everything is the same, the structure, but you do need to specify the specific impact of the destination, which is widening. So there are these, you have to draw, your specific impact, how you will actually address the problems that are raised in wider destination. Yeah. So go ahead with your...
Yeah. So because the two projects are based on technical topics, right?
Yeah.
So one was batteries, one was advanced
automation. Yeah.
Automation, yeah. And you mentioned that Stuba, for example, so Slovak University of Technology in Bratislava, is already strong in these fields. Is that the case? So these are two areas of expertise for the university anyway. So you would say that you're bringing excellent science to the project already, but the idea is just to improve certain aspects of how you manage a... Is that the case, or?
No, and yes and no. I do believe that we have in both of this field we have strong researchers, but you can always learn and you can always be better, and that's the point of the teaming, that it should not be anything new. It should be raising the excellence, and the raising of excellence in this is not through research. It is through the collaborative, writing the proposals, writing the publications, so it is different kind of skills that they are, I think, improving. Of course, the research part as well, but the other skills are maybe even improving even more, I would say.
So the research part was already relatively strong in terms of the experts who are working on it, and it's simply a case of getting the experience of being involved in a consortium, in a project.
Yes, in the specific field, and also then collaborate, like strengthening the collaboration in that specific field. Because we see in Stuba that these fields are important for us. We do have already people, we do have infrastructure, but we need to know how to exploit it wider.
Yeah. I'm mentioning this because there are a lot of arguments against the widening are that it is funding projects that are not considered excellent, right? So because the whole thing with Horizon Europe is we should only fund excellent projects. The meaning of excellent is maybe it changes on a case-by-case basis, but okay. But that's the point, is it like the researchers who are coming from Stuba are already bringing a lot of quality to the subject matter. It's just a case that they haven't been involved necessarily in wider consortia like this, or they haven't had the experience, or that they want to make new links with other leading universities in the field, this sort of thing.
Exactly.
So the idea is it's already good on a technical level, just...
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, again, excellent research, it's like, what is it? How you measure it?
It's hard to,
it's hard to say, but but it is a lot, as I said, a lot about building the trust from the and being involved in the bigger scene, because you can be very excellent, but you can be closed in your laboratory.
Yeah.
You can be very excellent, but working only with the local players, so this instrument really helps to push them out to the world and to show that we actually can do things, and then we will get involved, and we are getting involved in the bigger projects like that, where we already,
What I think is that if you state that these kind of projects, it's just because they're Eastern European research organizations, then the level is lower. That in itself has a connotations that I don't like very much, because the problem is not that the level is low in the research.
Yes.
It's
I
not
totally,
the level,
that's what I'm
exactly.
saying.
Yeah, so that's what I don't like when people talk about it like this, because that's not the point. The point is not the level. It's a very strong research organization.
Exactly.
What you have been doing in all three projects is a matter of scaling up on capacities, on how do you learning, exchanging on how do you work, knowledge sharing on how to approach things, you send your PhDs to Pisa, So the students see how do they work in Italy, how do they work here in this research organization. They take some practices with them home and say, make their own connections when they come back to Slovakia and say, this works fine here, but maybe we should adjust here and here, because it's actually quite modern approaches there, right? That because of inherited institutional structures in the organization, and that's exactly what the widening is supposed to deal with. Yeah, it's about modernization and connection, and upgrading on practices and how do we do things, and using those capacities to build up new network structures within research, because research is so conservative.
Yes, exactly.
It's and collaboration structures are the conservatism is pushed onto the collaboration also. So Western they collaborate because they've always been collaborating in that way, and it's like this. And then you also know research world is very tight knit. Yeah, so it's very now we have our little club here, and then we stay together, and then we keep the others out. Like it at all levels, actually, from institute level on to international level. Yeah, so this is a matter of breaking that down also to say no, you have to open up. And actually, if the hop on are those the projects where you have a project running and then you can invite. Yeah, that's the same mechanism. Yeah, it's the same regulation, so to say, to force, like open things up.
Yes.
Like to say, look, I'm sorry, but not sorry, but here, this guy's there.
Don't get too fond of the hop on, because as I understand, it might not be continued. So.
But we can speak about hop on. It's a very interesting and challenging scheme, I would say. Yeah.
What's your experience then of it? So I have a little bit of experience.
I mean, we have a good experience because we got one from the first try, so that's good. But I mean, it's challenging not in the way how to write it or how to prepare it. It's challenging in a way how to get in, like how to get invited, because I don't know how much you know about it, but the project has to be from the pillar or EAC, and it should not have already widening country in the consortium, which is already quite hard to find, because usually they have at least one just for the looking good, and for the reviewer. Okay, we also have one of the quoting outsiders. So the pool is really not so big, and believe me, it's not easy to convince a PI who already has money in his pocket to say, can we also join you? Can we join the party? You will get 10% of the pop-up. And so you need to have very good connections, and this is exactly the example of our collaboration with University of Pisa through the FrontSeat project. That they knew us, they already trusted us, and they knew that our researchers are excellent and we can do it. And they said, yeah, we spoke with the PI, we shared our experience with you, and they opened the door. But that's kind of a the fairy tale example, because
this is exactly widening working then, right?
Yes. Yeah.
This is building trust with other institutions.
Exactly.
So
yes.
Then join consortia in the future.
Yeah.
I was curious as well, Katalin, you said earlier that you feel that your institute is ready to coordinate Horizon Europe proposals, right, on a wider scale within the clusters, whatever. But you found it very competitive. Do you think it's competitive because there's a lot of sort of closed consortia that are just winning year after year these proposals, and it's hard for you as a sort of newcomer or an outsider to then scoop that funding?
Well, yeah, that certainly adds to the many reasons. But let's say another one, we always have to find resource to travel to the matchmaking events, for instance. And it's just hard to be a first comer for the first time.
Viltaré, do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. Totally, I do agree. And also, I mean, as Neil said already, like there are those closed clubs, especially when you speak about the calls that are pre-written for a certain institution, pre-written for certain associations, and then they are funded, like the and decided. Of course,
consortium already formed before the call is out, and
of course, and there are many factors, but we are trying to go very much through the personal connections, which widening is really helping a lot. A lot.
Now, EU Commission, if you're listening, you can hear here. You can't hide these things.
Yeah. Let's not.
Whenever you mention, whenever we talk, all of us, when we mention it to you, dear officials, you get so angry. But this is the truth. So it's like this. So maybe, we know how it is. We know why. And that's because established collaboration. It's easier to give it to collaborations that are running well and so on and so forth, that are not pissing money away, talking about taxpayers' money. But don't. Don't, because it makes so much frustration, and it gives it creates the image that some things are locked specifically and some are better friends with the European Commission than others. So no, that was a digression. Sorry. Sometimes I do that. I speak directly to the Commission like this. No. Yes, because I have it's my medium. I can do what I want. No. Now, trust. Which this is a key word, right?
Yes.
But I want to move into the implementation part. So you've been rolling this out, and it's difficult to have this conversation around proposal project division because it's mixed together when you already have been rolling out the project. But is there anything? How has it worked in practice? Because for you, Katalin, that has been probably, as you say, it's inherited in the whole work. So how do you feel in that project? Is it something that you do you see? I know you will say, we don't think about it because this is the project's built like this, but I'm going to pressure a little bit on it anyways. Do you feel well, because you said that it was important for you to have more widening countries than non-widening countries? Do you ever reflect in the work that you do, saying that look how well it works? Or is it in the implementation?
Reflecting on that certain jobs are done by partners from widening countries. Yeah. Is this your question?
Yeah, or that you see that the effect of having so many widening countries with, and that they're doing successful work in the project and so on.
No, there is no this kind of connection, because there are partners from non-widening countries who are not experienced in EU-funded projects. Mm-hmm. For them, this is the first time participating in a Horizon project, and we have very experienced partners from widening countries who are really experienced project managers, organizations participating in EU-funded project, because this is the reality for some of the countries that NGOs are living with surviving with the EU-funded project. So they are really experienced partners. They are just having less experience in Horizon project. So there is no connection between like performing job and being from widening countries, or I didn't ask her. So don't look up for this kind of like factors or impact.
Okay, Viltaré.
Maybe I didn't get your question well.
No, I think that Niels wants to provoke us to spill the tea, to spill the gossip.
I just want to see. I want to see the widening effect. I want to. That's the discourse here.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's that it has an effect. That it's actually working.
But this is because this is kind of a double bind situation for us who are participating institutions from widening countries, and this is the same thing with the trust. So performance trust, this is really like a double bind situation, because we have to perform well before we enter into a project. Mm-hmm. But how to prove that we are performing well if we are not involved in a project?
Well, I cannot say that. Yeah, that you can feel. I mean, again, very different situations. We are the leaders, and we are the only the main organization from widening, and then we have the two non-widening partners. And it is kind of set up already in the project that they are like mentoring us more than, so the roles already are preset, that we are
defined. So it's defined.
They are defined. It is for me hard to say. Of course you can feel it. Of course you can feel difference between University of Twente and STU, but not because the researchers are lesser or better than the other, but it's just, as we were speaking, the legacy, the 50 years that we lost here. Of course you can feel it, I will not deny it, but but definitely I cannot say that I would feel that they would look at us, especially once we are already rolling out the project, especially the FrontSeat project. I would never say that there was any moment when they would look at us like, you are the widening country, like in some kind of negative way. I would say quite the opposite, that they showed us the trust had grown very fast, and they were kind of even saying like, wow, you do this much better than we do, so this is something very nice, because I know that in our countries, like post-communist countries especially, we are quite low self-esteem, and we think that we are worse than them and blah blah blah. But actually, from this project, you can see that people are actually saying like, you are doing great, just keep doing what you are doing. So yeah, I would not say that there is like a huge gap between us. We are working on it.
What I often get, I've been working a lot with European wide for 15, 16 years, and I've been both Eastern European and Western European, North and South and so on. And what often happens with researchers when they have to so the public side, they are very limited in their capacities compared to Western Europe, Northern Europe. So it's there's really that the thing that coming the natural way of being able to come out and explain and share what you're doing, and then sharing it in a way, the communication capacities on, because of the academic tradition in the communist countries, very lot of text, a lot of text on PowerPoint presentations, heavily written, very scientifically written. Difficult to decipher if you're not specifically from that, right? And that alone, I think, can scare a lot of Western non-widening universities or collaboration parts. Say, "Ooh, this is heavy," or "How are we ever going to?" How are you working with that in your projects, Viltaré? Is that an element that you have there?
I would say not directly. Maybe more. We do have soft skills trainings in both. Stronger in the second one, in FreeTwin, where we have experts to exactly train our researchers and our RMAs how to pitch your idea, how to present, how to sell your research, because this is also, as you say, a huge problem in our countries, that our researchers, they don't know how to sell their research. They don't know, they don't believe that they can. Sometimes they don't want, because
they don't want
again, the trust issues,
But it's just, you say we have that also. That's a universal thing. Researchers, if you have the old school, they can't. Yeah. Why am I? I'm not in marketing here.
Exactly.
This is serious.
Why should I sell my research? Exactly. We do address that in the trainings. Definitely, we definitely approach this, and we are supporting our researchers to go to matchmaking events. For example, in STU, matchmaking or brokerage events are extremely unpopular. Extremely, and we are trying to motivate them that, like, don't be scared, it's normal to go on the stage and say like, this is my research, because that's what they do, that's how you get in. So there is a lot of to learn. But one thing I wanted to say also regarding this, that what I noticed in the Western, let's call it Western universities, whatever, is that the entrepreneurship trainings are in the universities already, in most of the universities, where they train already like the bachelor students, the master students, how to do that. In our university, for example, we don't have that. We don't have the entrepreneurship training for the students. We have the incubator, but that's just if you want, but we don't have like the mandatory one. And that's a huge difference. Yeah, that's something that we want to do in the future, definitely.
It was something many Eastern European countries did in the 90s as part of the liberalization to make incubators. Yeah, so there was a lot of playing with and taking learnings from America.
Yes,
there was a lot of use to America. Yeah,
of course,
the beacon of light. Yeah, so let's build up this way of, but
incubator is not a mandatory courses, and it's not something that in our incubator we have 20-30 teams per year while we have like 10,000 students. So. And again, most of them don't want because they are maybe scared or I don't know what.
Viltaré, in one of your projects, I think the first one you talked about, you had some sort of academia industry forum, or and you said that the students were able to get links with Slovakian industry.
Yes.
Is it also Italian, German industry as well? So was that possible to bring that in?
No, not directly, because the aim of this was to involve academia in our industry in our academic work. So to put the students, for example, to have a PhD thesis that would be linked with industry needs, like directly with the needs. So. But we did get inspired by the Italian and German structures, how they do it. But I think it would be a little bit too difficult to have also the foreign industries involved in this.
Next step,
exactly. We need to start somewhere. So yeah, we started here.
Now, I think we've been digging enough. Is there anything else, Thomas? Do you have any other questions? Because I think it's just fine. We can move on to the takeaways and so on. But is there anything else, Thomas?
No, I'm curious about the takeaways. I just I'd love to find out overall impressions of being involved in.
Yeah. Katalin, takeaways and experience.
Takeaways. Maybe it will be interesting what I say, but I'm always curious why people use the terms post-communism, because it's like almost 40 years since the transition happened, and it was a really long journey, on this democratization. So lots of things happen with these countries, and it's just really always interesting for me to still speaking about us as post-communist countries. And this is so relevant, I think, for the widening countries as well. So it's like what I am taking from this discussion is that definitely it's a really good tool. I think we need these mainstreaming tools, these tools counteracting inequalities, but it has to be in the right way. It has to be done in the right ways. And I became just curious to look for this impact assessment, what was mentioned at the beginning of our discussion about the widening countries, because I think we will learn a lot from it for a next proposal under the widening scheme.
You would like to see then the widening continued, but maybe it could be improved. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely, like any other tool. In case of any other tool, yeah.
Perfectly understand. The problem is that it's the communist legacy is so heavy.
Yes, it is so heavy, but we should. I think we should improve our vocabulary on it as well, because it's really happened almost 40 years ago, and we have a totally different system in the last 40 years. So I understand, but it's other things are really relevant, like cultural differences and the legal framework operating in the different countries for the universities, the economic development, the resources. So it's really a lot. But so I agree. The communist heritage is huge. I'm just thinking, as a researcher, that how to better refer to the last 40 years, because it's not only about being a post-communist country.
There's also a lot of debate about whether the experiences, so labeling all of these countries post-communist and grouping them all together in that way is sort of, they're not the same countries. So each one has a different experience, and they have their own issues or challenges. So it's
I don't want to drive away our conversation, but using the word widening, non-widening, and communist and post-communist, it's all about labeling, and I think this is something we can learn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I will just add that I think Katalin is trying to be polite using the word interesting. I think it should be annoying more than interesting. Yeah, but
thank you for joining me.
I totally agree with you. But on the other hand, I will try to be like a self-critic. We complain that we are like separated, but at the same time we really enjoy these these nice tools that we have that we can only use. So I don't want to sound like a hypocrite here. But the takeaways. Well, I just hope that really the widening tool will continue. But yeah, maybe it could be a bit better, let's say. But I just hope that the trust that we were speaking here about, that the trust will be, and this gap will be seen not as a huge one, and maybe the preconceptions will, like this tool will allow the preconceptions to a little bit fade away, and it will not be that we will just always go to the box of like, oh, this is widening country, or this is post-communist country, post-communist institution, because that's very important. That's very important, how we are looked at sometimes. And
that's the point with the widening.
Yes, absolutely. But
to eradicate it.
Yes, absolutely.
To get away with those misconceptions.
Exactly. So I just hope that it will still be there, and we will reach the point when we will be all at the same level. Doubt it, but let's be optimistic.
The future is long.
Yeah.
So things are slowly evening out, but we can call it whatever we want. But the kind of systems that were there, it had a huge impact on all levels of life in those societies.
Definitely.
And this is this is what we're talking about here. It's trying to get away, to finally get away from those things that are hindering collaboration, and because it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So the ultimate goal is to get so good that the widening doesn't have to exist anymore.
Exactly. But that's the point.
That's the point. Yes. Yeah. That's the future. And to have, the most beneficial country to be not Germany or France, or I don't know what's now number one.
Yeah.
But someone from our side, let's call it this way.
Well, if you want to look at it this way, Poland is a head of all countries, if you ask me, in relation to defense and security. So at least the discourse they have around this and the understanding of it. I didn't put it here in the rundown, but is there anything coming next as a result of what you have done here in those projects? Are you already reaping? Can you see you will reap fruits from being involved in this? Do you have next steps, collaboration with University of Pisa, for instance, or are there any of the partners in your project, Katalin, that you can already now see that you will develop and where you will coordinate?
Yeah, I can go first. For us, definitely, as I already said, yeah, so we are already involved in one hop-on, so in one EAC with the University of Pisa, and definitely the cooperation between researchers are not ending in September. That's for sure. That's for sure that they liked working together. They tried out working together also on research, on papers, on conferences, etc. So the exchanges that they did will definitely continue. The Erasmus contracts are signed and it will continue without the project being there. The same I hope to see in FreeTwin. Too early to say. We are just 1 year in. But the partnership is strong, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Katalin?
Yes, I can join to this. There are already benefits we have due to this project coordination. We are already developing other projects. We are invited to other projects, being partners and coordinators. So there are a lot of benefits of it, and we are expanding, especially me as the coordinator, we are expanding our networks on a large scale. That's really like a huge benefit of being a coordinator of this Horizon Widening project.
I would expect these replies.
It would be sad.
Working with this for so many years, this is exactly what happens. So if you put your hand into the bee's nest, suddenly a lot of things happens. Or my own little proverb: if you put the spoon in the soup, eventually some meatballs are going to come up at the top. But it is correct, yeah. If you step into this, then you will get collaboration. You will have partners that you like working together with, and then you will be invited to the next.
Yeah, of course you have to do your job well.
Yes. Of course, you cannot be a crappy partner.
Yeah, that's actually another huge responsibility from when you are from the widening country, that you really have to prove yourself, I think, even more than the partners from non-widening countries, because you do want to be involved, and maybe your university name doesn't really have such a huge weight, and actually your work and your dedication and how you prove yourself that you are good weights more than the name of the university, which is not always the case, let's be honest. In other universities,
of course, say Fraunhofer, or you say CEA, or
yes. They don't care if they are really good, if the person will be dedicated. They want them in the project.
Exactly.
So this is something that we need to put extra work in, definitely.
Yeah, and this is something I think which improved in our case, that it's I would say that now we can select of the potential partners. I have this capacity that I am able to select among the potential partners for the next project proposal. So this is something what is new. So we can, from now on, we can easily say that, sorry, we don't think we want to work with you.
That's the privilege of taking the coordinator role.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It is. Actually, what I would say, what I have seen with my Eastern European contacts, that are ones that do very well, they are very active.
Of course, we have
to. But maybe there is exactly this psychological element, Viltaré. Yeah?
Definitely.
This element that they feel that they have to be more vibrant, more outgoing, more.
Of course.
But they
I wouldn't say that. Sorry to interrupt you. I wouldn't say that's a psychological element, but yeah, this is something depending how we want to explain this overperforming, because this is quite the same. Like what happens with the women leaders when they receive a position, they have to overperform before receiving a position, and then they have to overperform in the position as well.
Indeed, in many parts of the world still. No. Thomas?
No, I think Katalin really summed up nicely earlier when she said the project was living proof of the success of the widening. So I think that's a very good message, that when it works, it really works. And obviously, in order for the effects to start to be noticed on a macro, wider level, it's going to take some time. So, I mean, you've given an example of 3 different projects where clearly there is success, but for that to translate into data and numbers that we can see, it's going to take a lot of time. But at least it's good to know that on a small individual basis, it's working.
Yeah, that's the whole point. No, on that note, I'm going to land this plane. I'm going to have a little fly out here, landing before we say goodbye to dear listeners. So, dear listeners, thank you so much for listening to the end. Hope you like this second episode in the Widening series. There will be a link on this episode site. Each podcast episode in the grant has its own website, so you can find the link in where you listen to your podcast. There you will find a link to the Widening series. There's another episode where you can go and listen to. And while you're there, there's so much content in there. There are 175 episodes. There's so much stuff in there. And definitely, if you like this, you'll also particularly guide you to the category, the Grand Campus, where there's a lot of content on universities and research. Anyways, there's lots of content there. And while you are in there browsing around, say oh my goodness, this is fantastic, then don't forget to subscribe to my email list. It's at the bottom of each site, so you can go there and subscribe to me. This is how you support a humble independent podcaster like myself. Finally, go and connect with me, but also Thomas, on LinkedIn. There will be links to our LinkedIn sites, also to the Dear Guests LinkedIn site here on the site. Connect. This is where the fun happens. This is where the flow is. This is where I share. This is where I like. This is where I throw out all my episodes and content and so on. So that's that. Thanks for joining. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for the invite.
Now let's say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
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 Bye. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You'll find the link in the episode notes with the podcast host where you listen to your podcast. On the site for this episode, you'll find links to Viltaré's, Katalin's and Thomas' personal LinkedIn sites. You'll also find links to their organizations. Further, there's a link to my Widening Series site where you can go and listen to the first episode. And finally, there are links to the projects mentioned in the episode and the EU's official Widening site. Next week is the second episode in my SME series that I, together with Alicia Gregorczyk-Karskosa, this time will focus on the financial rules and regulations for freelancers and how to handle it in the EU projects. We look forward to that.